while ago, whose postings were far from just the desire to check the story of our people. So SM Brussels flight of that day came from Brussels to Freetown, and Freetown to Monrovia. A strike action was due in Brussels the following day. So the flight did not plan to continue its journey. Normally when the flight comes from Freetown or Côte d'Ivoire, wherever it comes from, they will pick up passengers and proceed to Brussels. This flight came and a decision was made that the flight will remain at the Rabat International Airport until the following day to avoid the strike action that was taking place in Brussels. So we didn't have additional passengers coming on board from Freetown. Once we landed in Freetown, and the passengers that were traveling to Sierra Leone disembarked, no passenger entered the flight from there, except those who were coming to Monrovia that were already on board remains. In fact, approximately around 85% of the passengers on board the flight remained in Freetown. So we came to Monrovia with almost virtually empty flight. And the flight landed safely on normal condition. In fact, those on the flight did not know that there was an issue on the ground. It was just about the point of disembarking, then the team on the flight announced that the passengers would not receive their luggages because the terminal was before electricity. And so they would not be able to upload the luggages. So we disembarked, and once we got out of the plane, we could see that the terminal building was dark. But the runway was lighted, clearly lighted. That's why the flight was able to land in the first place. And the VIP, I'm not talking about the presidential lounge, but the VIP of the airport, the small one that used to be used before, also had electricity. And we proceeded in. I asked some question, why was it possible for the runway to be operational with full lighting, not a terminal? And the explanation was based on what happened in the past, where the entire system was linked as one. And there were, I think, two different instances of the same case in Brussels, where the flight was not able to land, even though they approached the wrong way to land, and had to ascend and go to Freetown to learn some lessons from that. So they have a system that keeps the runway 24/7 lighted. So even if the whole airport, in terms of the terminal being the dark, flights will be able to safely and easily land because the runway is perfectly lighted. And that was the situation of that night. So we saw posting that people were using flashlights and their phone light to claim their baggage. Nobody could claim baggage, nobody could use touchdown or anything to claim baggage. You claim baggage without discharge from the flight. When you take baggages from the flight, they go on the conveyor belt to roll it into the terminal, go to baggage claim where people receive their stuff. So if the entire terminal is without electricity, it means the conveyor belt itself is not working. And if the terminal is without electricity, that will mean go passengers can go in there. So how can somebody suggest that people are using flashlight to go collect or claim their bag? And the flight already announced that bags will be received tomorrow because the terminal is without electricity. We don't provide justification for that, and as a spokesman of the government, I would say the fact that there was no electricity in the terminal should not have happened. And the president of the company himself took that matter very serious. He instructed the very night and he needed an incident report to be available to his office by morning the next day. That incident report was submitted. Additional meetings were held with the president himself involved to get into what really took place. And frankly, as a doctor, there's no appetite to see a repeat of the situation whereby the terminal building will be without electricity. So we don't provide defense for that. The explanation we're trying to give is not to give any justification because what took place in the terminal building should never have happened. But once it happened, then we cannot try to be propagandistic about it. In fact, it looks like, in my mind, that there's a competition for the real occurrence of battles. Because you used to myself, oh, it happened on this other person, now it's happening. But we fought war 2 decades ago and killed 250,000 people. Should there be Liberians speaking that war is fought again? Just to show that that we marching forward. The excesses we had in the past, we should correct them. That's why our citizens and everybody else should demand from their government, not a prayerful movement, but a repeat of the bad things of the past. And that's why I am informed that the president has made it clear to the individuals who are in charge of the airport that there's zero tolerance for what took place that night. The rest of the passengers had to be checked out of the airport using the original VIP where immigration officers were assigned and they had access to electricity. And things went on smoothly. That was exactly what happened. Some of the passengers were outraged and it was justified. I had conversation with some people on the flight who were coming to Liberia for the first time after many years. We don't want them coming home and being greeted with those kinds of impressions. That is why we don't appreciate, as a government, what took place at the airport, and we will do everything that is humanly possible to ensure that at no time in the future, with an aircraft land at the RIA, even though safe enough because the runway is lighted 24/7, the terminal does not have electricity. Passenger cannot use it to get out of the airport. They cannot have access to their luggages. They have to wait for extra time, not knowing some of the important things they have in their luggages. And then for the person who may not have come to the country for that long, we give them an impression that is negative. We don't have space for that. So we can tell the story as it took place. We don't have to add, we don't have to subtract, and we don't have to appear that people in prayer for the continuous occurrence of the wrong things in the country, or negative things in the country. We also be concerned about the country making progress. And that is the reason why we tolerate criticism, especially for those who have facts about things that may not be going well. We welcome the criticism because it will help us not to be complacent. It will make us to be reminded that as leaders of the country, we owe both the country and the people of the country something. That they empower you democratically based on commitments that you made, and you must keep those commitments. So that's the situation with the airport. Another situation we follow from afar is the whole question about vehicles for the presidency. And that's how I like to put it. Because the focus is the presidency, it's not an individual. Just yesterday somebody else was in there and said, today another person is there. Tomorrow it could be another person. So the action is directed at the presidency and not an individual. And the reason why we sat from afar and watched and did not rush to make any comment is because we believe some strange things are really happening here. In which country? The way that the president is protected is made a public discourse. Where? All of the countries around here, or most of them at least, the presidents of those countries own private presidential jets. Do we know the cost of presidential jets? Do they come and ask them the jet is what? Do we know the features they have on those jets for the purpose of providing security and what the implications are? Those are things that are not made public political discourse. And it is not something that the president or anybody else in government has authority over except those who are responsible to protect the president. It's like the whole country. The country needs to be protected. And those who are charged with the responsibility of protecting the country will continue to do what they believe is deemed proper and required to protect the country. The scene of the presidency. For the country to be stable. Oh yes, you don't want a situation when you don't want money and somebody says to you, this one has happened to the president. I remember when President Bata was elected, I was still out of the country then. He had gone into a community where somebody had rushed to him. And the man succeeded in reaching the president. That one, they were running with on social media for weeks. And everybody was criticizing the security people who had signed with the president. What kind of security people did? Did you fire them? How could they allow somebody to come near the president? That they have worked to protect the president. Many of the ordinary citizens were outraged that they flunked to the extent that somebody physically reached the president. Assuming the president had a knife, he had a gun. And that's why you were outraged. It was justified. But you don't know what they put into ensuring that the president, vice president, anybody else is protected. So the determination as to how the president moves in a vehicle. It's not for the president to determine to go back in his car. It is the obligation of the people who are responsible for the protection and based on their assessment of the threat level to the president. Now all of a sudden, it becomes an issue of debate that they take one car to get to the president's house. If you are out of the office today, those things that the EPS or the security forces have determined are required and needed to ensure that they succeed in protecting the presidency by extension the individual who is there. That's what they will do. It can be a matter of politics. It can be a matter of debate. Are we not aware that a large fleet of presidential vans that was inherited was used for 6 unbroken years? Used for all the different travels, including travel during campaign? Oh, there have been some things happening that we never said to you because it's a security question. I'm aware that several times the president, the vehicle broke down on the highway to Bombay. Some journalists are aware because they had trouble with the president. And I commend you that in some cases, you combine certain things with your journalistic profile and say, it is not for me to go report that the president car broke down while we're in. So many of you did not report that. Those were usual occurrences. And you think the people who are responsible for the president's security will be comfortable with that? That it's okay for the president to be breaking down? And they decide to take an action to avoid that and to ensure that the president is at all times safe? Do you know what will happen as the president's vehicle breaks down on a highway? Do you know at that point, then the life of the president is in danger as a result of that? And if those who are responsible for his protection just sit and fold their hands and believe nothing is supposed to be done, then we the same people will come and criticize them. Fire the director. Fire the EPS officer. They don't even know what is required to protect our president. when they do what they deem is necessary to protect the president, then we come and make it our political discourse. So this is not an issue that we'll be talking about. I think those who take so deep an interest in politics can keep talking. But one thing the EPS has shown us is that they have acted in a way that enables them to perform their statutory responsibility of ensuring that the president is safe at all times. So there's no, how many times somebody, just before the end of the president's term, you didn't see the customized vehicle that was bought by the former president? Well, not for government or president. Why we didn't see the same outrage? Somebody somewhere, especially people who hail the purchase of that customized vehicle, which were private, and the very ones who make it the largest of noise about what the EPS has done or is doing to ensure the protection of the president. Make the politics you want to make out of it all you want. Another thing we want to talk about, because when we got to the ground, it was a matter of concern. Before then, the Monrovia ministry said they would maintain the portion of the road rehabilitation work taking place on the Bushel Island as it was originally, which means the portion of the road that was full lane will be maintained, and the stretch of road between, I think it's Carway Junction to Zimbabwe, which has been 2 lane all the time, they will remain 2 lanes. They've made a determination based on resource availability that they want to maintain a 4 lane road from the Gabriel Tucker Bridge all the way up to Zimbabwe. Hence, their recent action, which you all witnessed, the demolition of several properties along the road. Some people have been concerned to say, we want development. But most times when they go down and break these things down, you see months pass by and nothing will happen. So we have had conversation with the Minister of Public Works. And they've given the assurance that they did the demolition because they are ready to commence the physical work required to be done in expanding that road for 4 lane road. They have the resources for it. They're trying to ensure that before the rain starts to fall very heavily, they will have what they call the base layer. The base layer is that final layer that you put in after all the earthwork that is followed immediately by pavement. They want to do all of that before the rain falls heavily. And then they will be able to do the pavement, which means if you were driving from Johnson Street all the way up to Zimbabwe, you will drive on a 4 lane road, which will make it a little bit easier for movement for those of us who live on that side. We know how we struggle to pass through places that do our market. And that is the expansion will make the flow of traffic even better and easier, and will be in the interest of commuters. You understand when these things are happening, sometimes you feel a little bit right. I come from the Samaritan Catholic Church. I'm a member of that church. And when I returned to the country, I stopped by to see my priest. And one of the things that I was welcome with is that the front part of the whole fence of the church was brought down because it was on the road. And the priest, as I was talking to him, he had this positive mindset. He said, we understand, we're not offended. We're in the right of way where the road's supposed to pass. But the only concern is, having broken down this fence, it will wait for the next 6, 7 months, maybe up to a year, we see no road coming, then we take the fence. Because you not bring our places down, we're not ready to do the work. And those kinds of conversations with many other people, including my priest, inform my judgment that I needed to have a conversation with the Public Works Ministry. In that conversation, they confirmed that no, we are expanding the road to 4 lane, we're ready to do it now. They're not going to have any wait period. The road will be built into a 4 lane road. Development sometimes is painful. For those of us who are members of the church, a lot of people, we're working with them to ensure that they restore the fence to the new demarcation. A lot of people who lost some property will be acting to do all the readjustment. There's a Ahmadiyya Muslim school run by the Catholic Church there. It was also hit. So we want to see transformation, we want to see development. And we all got to bear some pain as we ensure that those developments take place. We also see massive work taking place on the highway, even though we came very late, there were all that happened at the airport, but even on the cover of darkness, we could notice that more work has been done in expanding the road on the RIA front. The Public Works Minister said to me that the work will continue with us without hindering because 76% of the money required for that project has been received by the contractor. The work done so far is estimated around 60%, which means they receive more money than the work done, so the work can continue. And by the time they will reach the point of exhaustion for that up to 76% payment that was made, additional funding will be made available. So that is an assurance that the work being done on our highway will continue unhindered until it is completed, so that in the not too long distant future we all feel good. When we arrive at the international airport, we're driving towards the capital. We're on a complete 4-lane road straight up to the capital. The Minister of Public Works that is responsible for all the streets that you see around, they will ensure that our highway is also lighted properly. Because even when the road was just 2 lanes, one of the challenges that were on the road was the extreme darkness. And sometimes those traveling to the capital will wonder, so the road will on leading us to the capital city, they can be asking questions. Because all they see is utter darkness. The goal of this document is to change all of that, to create a positive image about our country. It's a part of the general branding process that we all have to do. The country has to be branded. That was why we found on the situation at the airport. You can't be trying to brand the country and do around the system of being a correct. So that is also continuing. And for those of you who have some concern about the interchange, which is the stuff that is supposed to start from the ministerial complex to the SKD Boulevard, maybe you're wondering, because we have announced using this same platform that the work would have started in February. The contractors are in country. They are mobilized. But we realize besides individuals who have their structural things like building, shaft, etc., most of the service providers have their operational lines in those spaces. FEC, for example, have all the high tension wires there. If you're using that road regularly, you realize they are taking down all the high tension wires. They're not doing the free. Government pay them so they can be able to reinstall wherever it's supposed to be. Orange, Lone Star, the water and sewer, the sewer line, all those things are in the place that is supposed to be used to do the road. Public Works have been engaging, making payments to some of the people who got structure there. As they pay them, they break down the structure. This weekend, most structures will be done because payments have been made. And all the service providers, including Orange, LEC, the LTC itself, everybody has been engaged, paid, and they're breaking down those things that are in the road. Because the contractors need the site, operational site along that route. Those operational sites are the places where those utilities, infrastructures are running. They've been brought down. We are hoping that between 1 to 2 weeks, everything there will be resolved and the work will start. That is the reason why on Thursday, I'm just saying this in passing, but on Thursday, the Ministry of Public Works will be our guest here at the press conference. So that they give you more detail, not just about that, but all the interventions that they are making during this period. The Deputy Minister of Taba has been authorized by the Minister of Public Works, saying he's the technical man. He will come here to tell the story on Thursday. That is where I want to stop and allow the Deputy Minister to talk. I heard one former government official was on the network OKFM. I would choose not to be the one to talk to him. The Deputy Minister is empowered to address that issue. You see, where we take this country from where they left it is what concerns me as the Minister of Information. That's why I've come to you talking about things that we do. Change the life of the people, now responding to their noise. But noise making has become a career for some people. If you follow them, then you as the chief spokesman of the government, you reduce your responsibility to a battle of noise between you and professional noise makers, which I would not allow to happen to me. I think that's part of the reason why we have able, capable, and competent deputies in the system who can deal with those people at their own level. Mr. Simon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. It is very solemn for you to speak. Your voice I already spoken, but it's a protocol, and so we have to invite ourselves. So let me just continue from where the minister stopped. A lot of good things are happening for the country, and the relationship between Liberia and the People's Republic of China is yielding a lot of fruitful results. And based on that relationship, Liberia and China signed a joint technical cooperation agreement to support the arrest agenda for inclusive development. The government of Liberia and the People's Republic of China have officially signed a bilateral agreement for technical cooperation. The agreement was signed on Friday, March 28, 2025, by Her Excellency, the Dean of the President's Cabinet, Madam Sarah Beswilianti, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to Liberia, His Excellency Chen Yu. The agreement aims to enhance mutual cooperation in various sectors through the implementation of projects agreed upon by both governments, with a focus on promoting peace, stability and prosperity, and development in Liberia. The agreement aligns with the principles of equality, mutual respect, and win-win cooperation, which is the central element of the region commitment made at the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, FOCA. During the signing ceremony, the Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to Liberia expressed his satisfaction with the agreement and noted that the agreement is designed to facilitate projects that will be implemented following friendly consultations, reinforcing the shared goals of achieving sustainable development and promoting a prosperous future for Liberia. We talk about jobs, and the other day you heard that huge consignment of drugs was arrested by the Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency. The government is making strides in terms of bringing the situation under control. It is a problem that we cannot politicize. It's a problem that we cannot sweep under the carpet. We have to take it head on as a government. And so, as part of the government of Liberia's program to eradicate drugs and substance abuse in Liberia, the Ministry of Health has commenced a comprehensive substance abuse disorder treatment program. The program is a key component of the National Intervention Shepherd and spearheaded by the Multi-Stakeholder Committee on Drugs and Substance Abuse, which was established by President Joseph Imambuaka Sr. In collaboration with the Mother of Light Rehabilitation Program. This initiative underscores the government commitment to providing evidence-based treatment for individuals grappling with drugs use disorder. In the first phase, the program has established 3 outpatient centers, 2 in Monrovia counties and 1 in Grand Bassa County, as well as 1 inpatient center in Grand Bassa County. Additionally, renovation of Youth Agriculture Training Center in Bensonville is underway, and once completed, will serve as a second inpatient rehabilitation center. The treatment services are being delivered by a dedicated team comprising both volunteers and staff from the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, and the Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency. A multidisciplinary team includes psychiatrists, clinical psychologists, addiction professionals, educators, social workers, and TVET trainers. Beneficiaries will also have access to basic vocational training programs in agriculture, tailoring, and computer skills to support their long-term recovery and reintegration exercise. We have been following, and we know that there are people who get irritated at the mention of the name of the former president. But there are reasons why we have to constantly mention the name of the former president, not because he's our target, or some of the people who work with the former president are drawing him into unnecessary debates. The reckless and irresponsible attitude of the chief of staff to the former president is one of the reasons why we continuously use this platform to raise a red flag and to remind them on the government in reign here that was no different from a den of thieves. They came here, they were given the opportunity by the Liberian people to lead, and they decided to erase themselves, bastardize the country, and dash the hopes of the people. Today we have a government that is committed to focusing on the development needs of the country, and step by step we are addressing those needs, evidenced by the appropriation of the budget, evidenced by the good things that happen in the country. Just last night I went to my house, and the pavement of the road before my house is ongoing. The government is working. But we get trouble when people who had the opportunity to serve and fail to address some of the perennial problems that has kept this country backward. They come up today speaking because, of course, the government has created an every environment. Unlike that time where political opposition were being hunted down by the Porcupine Brigade, today they are free. But he said some things which we have to be clear about and we have to clarify. That The government led by His Excellency President Piah is stealing the vision of former President Piah. The question that then comes to mind is whether there was any vision of this story. From the way they ran the country, it clearly tells you that the former president was visionless. They ran a visionless government. So there was no vision. There was no vision. I can go on to name some of the failed promises. And those promises failed because they didn't have any vision. The PAPD, which was the guiding principle to their government, talks about creating thousands of jobs. Some of you who are journalists need to go to that former government official and ask him how many jobs they create for the young people. Today, the Piah-led administration is grappling with massive unemployment among the young people of this country. And what we intend to do is to create the enabling environment for investors to come here, create the businesses, the companies, thereby creating the jobs that we need. They will do that. The UP government does not have anything to do, and so it's stealing the vision. Was there a vision of this story? There's no vision of this story. What this government has done in the last 12 months, 13 months, 14 months, are sufficient indication that the country is on the trajectory to progress. And some of the people who want to say to us, I was bewildered as to why the chief of staff of the former president will be under the influence of some strong substances, go to the studio, and you could literally see that he was under the influence of something very strong. Maybe he was drunk. And you cannot even say anything substantial. Talking about the former president has never received a call from the president, and that the country, the government, is endangering the life of the former president. On what basis are the allegations being made? On what basis? Is President Piah the only former president of Liberia has? The president said he is here. And we all see how she continues to carry herself as an elderly stateswoman. And she's getting the respect, the cooperation that she deserves. But when the former president and people who manage the affairs of the former president still believe that the campaign is on and they want to be political about everything that happened in the country, we will not relent. Because they actually have to be ashamed of themselves. The things you failed to do yesterday is what the government is doing. You ever hear the president, the former president, the former vice president complain about the benefits? Do you know how they failed to pay when the current president was vice president, they failed to pay his benefits? Because you're looking for cooperation. You say people disrespecting you, and you make it noise about it. But you are getting everything that you are entitled to as a former president. Even though you say the EPL boss is incompetent, but the EPS that we now have is much more a force of disciplinary measures where officers for the EPS have been reprimanded for harassing VIP for money. The EPS under your leadership became an auxiliary of the ruling party. It became an auxiliary. Today, you talk about the former president let his rig in danger. All of the security protection that he needs as a former leader of the country, if I call him those. The very EPS you condemning are working under the instruction of Gareth Sengi. So is it now a contradiction The former president is accompanied by EPS officers, state security, everywhere he goes. And you come on the radio and say the EPF boss is not professional. There is a contradiction, and I'm constrained to say that this former government official is talking like someone who has a diarrhea mouth. When you have verbal diarrhea, just speak out anything. And coupled with the fact that he was under the influence of alcohol in under the studio, he missed the mark, and he failed to address some of the issues that he tried to spoken to. I know they were talking about the revelation from the EPF also about the vehicle. The minister spoke about it. But how many of you here don't know that all those extra motorbikes that you saw in the country, where are they? All the vehicles that were bought in the last 6 years of the presidency, where are they? So when people come up to give accountability, you know, one thing we will not do is to take the blame of the former government. We came to the Ministry of Information. What we have done is to set ourselves apart. And you bear testament to that. The way we met the ministry is no longer than that. But anything about audits, accountability, they have to account for their stewardship. And so if the EPS issue a statement that justifies the purchase of the vehicle for the president, the best you could do if you have nothing tangible to say in response to the EPS boss is to shut up. But you go on the radio using your diarrhea mouth and say, oh, and the EPS boss want to kill the president. What is that? What is that? To place emphasis on communicating government progress, making sure that the information our people need is given to them. But if there's anybody who thinks that the way you can distract or saturate the public space with lies and misinformation is to go on the radio and play politics, we will not relent in reminding of the facts, because the facts are available. One thing we know here is that we are not forgetful. We are very retentive. We remind you about all the things we did. So, it was a disaster. It was a blunder on the part of that former government official. And I think a lot has been said. We will not hold back in providing this information because our people deserve to know the comments. What vision is he talking about? Bali Island, 6,000 Nigerian teachers, the airplane cake, the coastal highway, the football stadium across the country. What vision is he talking about? Was there any vision in the first place? Some of the projects that they inherited from the United Party government, where fundings were already available, because of the reckless manner and form in which they managed the country, they could not even provide counterpart funding to match what the donors were providing or what they have committed to provide for these projects. Today, you see all the road projects have been accelerated across the country. Just the other day we announced at the second phase of the Bana to Menkoma Road, the Minister of Finance and Development Planning and the Minister of Public Works will be in Kuwait. A matter of months to conclude negotiation for the funding for the second phase of that road. Something that they could not do. You want the country to be kept backward because of the so-called quest to protect vision. Keep your vision with the former president. We'll deliver the development. Thank you. Before we take questions, the Deputy Minister for Culture and Tourism has a very important announcement to make. We'll make the announcement and then we'll take the questions and the Minister will respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Minister, and our very outstanding Minister, Jerolinmek Piah. We want to say welcome again. Members of the fourth estate, we are excited every week to have you here. Let me just say the Ministry of Information, Culture Affairs and Tourism has been drawn to a viral and disturbing social media video in which Ms. Kindness Wilson, first runner-up in the 2022 Miss Liberia Pageant, physically assaulted a female student on the campus of this Stella Marie Polytechnic University. Pageant, which oversees the prestigious Miss Liberia beauty pageant and supervises conduct of pageant winners afterwards for good behavior patterns, we are very deeply concerned over the shameful and behavior of Ms. Wilson as viewed in the video. Accordingly, MACAT will be requesting Ms. Wilson to appear before an investigative panel to ascertain if she has gone contrary to her behavior terms and conditions as a beauty queen. As a first runner-up of the 2022 Miss Liberia Pageant. More so, and during the investigation, MACAT investigative panel will also hear from the physically assaulted victim. And MACAT, this ministry is not going to take this as a joke. We are going to set an example. So MACAT will fully implement recommendations of the investigative panel consistent with its overseeing and supervisory roles. We want to take this time to say this should not be shift blaming, oh, this person did this, so I did that. So on this note, they will be hearing from us. We just wanted to make sure that, everybody knows that we are in control of what has happened, of what happened, and how we're going to handle it moving forward.